Hi, it's Steve. In this video, we'd like to show you how to replace a diffuser on your dishwasher. It's a really easy repair. Let me show you how we do it. Now, to do this repair, we will need to remove both racks from the dishwasher as well as the rear manifold and spray arm assembly. So we'll begin by opening the dishwasher up, remove all of the items on the lower rack, and then take the rack out and set it aside. Next, we'll pull the upper rack fully out of the dishwasher, and then while holding the rails in place, push the rack back in a ways, and we'll need to remove these rack stops. You'll note with the rack stop there is a little raised portion in the center that is towards the center of the tub. We're simply going to press down on that raised portion. That will lift up on the locking tab on the opposite side. And then we can push that rack stop towards the center of the dishwasher and remove it. Do the same for the opposite side. We can now pull the upper dish rack and spray arm assembly completely out of the dishwasher, and again we'll set it aside. We'll simply push those rails back into the tub. And next we're going to remove the lower spray arm, locate it just underneath the center of that spray arm. We'll take note of a four-sided lock nut. So simply grasp two opposing sides on that lock nut, rotate it about 1/8 of a turn counterclockwise, lift the spray arm off, and we'll set that aside. Now next we'll need to remove this manifold that goes up to the upper spray arm. So we'll need a number 2 Phillips screwdriver to remove a retaining screw on the back wall and one on the ceiling. Now with the upper dish rack out of the way, we can access this retaining screw that goes through the top of that manifold, as well as the one in the back wall. Now once we've removed those 2 retaining screws, we'll next need to pull that manifold slightly towards us and then tilt it to the right so that we can release it from the outlet near the base of the pump. So just carefully pull that away from that outlet. Gently spread those 2 tabs just enough to release it. Then we'll lift that manifold out and set it aside. Now next we're going to lift up in this little locking tab and rotate that assembly counterclockwise. So just lift up enough to clear that stop. Carefully lift it out of the opening and just set that aside. We can now lift off the old diffuser, carefully remove it from the shaft and discard it. Now when placing the new one in position, take note that there is a small notch located in the hub of that diffuser that lines up with a spline on the end of that shaft. So make sure that lines up so that it sits nice and flush. We'll then take that outlet assembly. Now when installing that outlet, we're going to line up this little notch with the arrow on the top of the pump. Make sure it sits down nice and flush. Then we'll rotate it clockwise. That notch should now line up with the longer tab on the top of the pump, and the locking tab should have dropped over that cam or stop and held it in place. We're now ready to put the manifold back in position. So position the top of the manifold to the right. Line it up with the outlet on the pump. Carefully push it all the way in until that stop comes up against the edge of the outlet. Make sure the Little tabs on the side are locked into place. We'll reinstall both of the retaining screws. Now we're ready to put the lower spray arm back on. We'll just set that spray arm down on the center. Make sure it sits down flush. And grab two opposing ends of that lock nut, and we'll turn it about 1/8 of a turn clockwise. So it locks in place. Make sure the spray arm spins freely. And now we're ready to put the racks back in. Now when installing the upper rack, we'll first of all pull both of the rails fully out of the tub. Take the upper rack and line up the rear wheels with the respective rails. And slide the front ones in. We're just going to push that rack back as far as it will go, and then we can put the rack stops on. Keeping in mind that the portion in the center that has the raised lip on it will face towards the center of the tub. So we'll take that rack stop, line it up with the cutouts on the rail, depress that tab, push it firmly into place so that the opposite edge locks it onto the rail. Do the same for the opposite side. Make sure they're locked in place. You can then push that upper rack back into the dishwasher. Place the lower rack on the door, slide that into position. We can close up the dishwasher door, and your repair is complete.